another edition of Morning Market Call. I'm your host, Rhett Weller, here today with fellow MBA student, Reina Gould. Reina, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rhett?
Good, thank you. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the world of consulting. It's a growing industry. There's consultants, it seems like, in every major Fortune 500 company. So Reina, tell me a little bit about how you got into consulting.
Yeah, well, I've actually done consulting for a while and several different types of consulting. I've done site selection consulting. I've done operations consulting, which is a little bit different from strategy consulting. You're more involved in the execution of things. I've actually done consulting in micro enterprise and developing markets.
Oh, cool. And
then I've done some consulting for startups as well, helping them prepare for VC financing.
Wow, that's quite a broad range. So what's been your favorite?
I really like the diversity of all of them, but working with startups, scrappy startups, is often a lot of fun. Sometimes makes me want to rip my hair out, and other times it just is really fun.
Yeah, it can be really fun, but it doesn't pay very well in the startup world usually.
No, it doesn't.
But yeah, it is the funnest. So tell me a little bit about, like, why would a company want to hire a consultant? I mean, if I'm I used to work for a Fortune 50 company, and we had consultants everywhere. We used to tease that they were the red badges because they just had, our employee badges were blue and theirs were red. Oh, there's a red badge, there's a consultant. Why would a company, a large company, hire them? Don't we have the inside talent just to handle it ourselves?
Well, in some cases, yes. In some cases, it's an image or confidence thing. Just to have a certain big name brand on board helping with a project actually helps the leaders in charge feel more comfortable. I would say that's definitely not the majority of the cases, but that does happen. A lot of times the company just can't do it themselves. Sometimes I've been in a project where the company, a Fortune 500 company, tried 3 different times to launch a change initiative, and it failed every time. So a bit destitute, they started hiring consultants to try to make the project go.
Well, I think that the key there could be it's an outside consultant, so they could bring in a fresh opinion maybe. I could definitely see that, yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of times they don't have the expertise in-house. Sometimes it's a matter of the consultants can see over the neighbor's yard, right? I mean, some of these Fortune 500 companies are more focused on their competition than they are on their customers. So they bring in the consultants who have the perspective of being in the industry for a while and seeing what the others in their industry are doing to bring best practices into that company. So that's another reason. A fourth reason I would say, the tools and templates and experience and that the consultants have had allow for projects to get going a lot more quickly. It's kind of like a ready-made system. Sometimes it needs to be tailored to the project.
I imagine some of the tools are the same tools they can use with other companies, and they can just bring that hardwired expertise in and say, hey, look, this is what you got to do, where a company that's homegrown doesn't have it just built in-house.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would make sense. So let me ask you this then. I understand there's a 5 C's of getting into the consulting world, getting into an interview. Would you say you've mastered those 5 C's, being with your consulting background? What would you say?
Well, I've done well enough in them to be in consulting for a while.
Okay.
Mastered them, we'll see. So these are 5 C's that I've developed.
Sure.
And one of them is when you're interviewing to get a consulting role, they want to see first and foremost, from my perspective, do you have the client presence? Do you have the poise, the confidence? Are you kind? Do you listen well to the client or to the interviewer in this case? And how do you respond to them? Would you develop that relationship? So I would say that client presence is the number one thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you don't want to stick just anyone in front of a client, right? You don't want the guy in the back room that has no personalities in front of your customer. So, okay,
absolutely.
Cool. So what's the second C?
So the second C is related to it, communication. They want to see clear verbal and written communication. In fact, one of my interviews one day was 3 cases in a day and a behavioral and a written, like a 30-minute written example of a response to a client. So
Wow.
they definitely want to see that you can communicate clearly.
And under pressure in a limited time frame, yeah.
Yes.
Great, cool. I can see why that'd be valuable. Give us another C.
So the next C is clear and structured case thought.
Okay, explain that.
So you get a lot of, anyone who is looking into consulting knows that there are a lot of case studies to go through and case interviews that are oftentimes high pressure. You've got the interviewer looking over your shoulder as you're structuring your thoughts, and then you present them to them maybe 10, 15 minutes later for another 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Wow, it sounds like they really grill you in these interviews.
Yeah, they can, certainly. So they want to see in what you're writing down that you have a framework for how you're dealing with the case. It's not just a random string of thoughts, but when you then take this framework and communicate it back to them, that it makes sense in a clear, structured way. It's kind of taking an ambiguous environment and making it clear and simple.
Wow, cool. And I mean, that would make sense, being that's what you're kind of hired to do. So it sounds good. Was there one more C? I think that was 4. What's the 5th?
That was 3.
Oh, 3? Okay.
So
there's 2 more.
So the next one is creativity.
Oh, yeah.
If the company can already come up with the answers that you're coming up with,
why hire you?
Why hire you?
Yeah.
So they like to see some original thought, absolutely. And then the 5th, cultural fit, lifestyle. I mean, are you going to be able to handle the travel, the hours, that sort of thing? And I think that's a good way to weed people out.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Well, that sounds pretty cool. Have you enjoyed consulting?
I actually really love it. I mean, there are times when it's frustrating, but it's so diverse and dynamic, and you get a perspective to bounce from company to company and really understand kind of the business world around you in a way that maybe you can't in any other profession.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. You heard it here. We talked about consulting. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. The 5 C's. I will practice my 5 C's, I promise. That's it for this edition of Morning Market Call. Tune in to other episodes at morningmarketcall.org, and have a nice day. Thanks.
MMC is brought to you by the Marriott School of Management in association with the Brigham Young University Department of Communications. MMC is made possible by a generous donation from Larry Tasjan and Gary Williams, and is produced by Rhett Weller, Todd Castagna, Mason Chen, Joel Toby, and Sabrina Beck, with line producing by Beth and Brian Grimmett. For more information, find us on Twitter or at morningmarketcall.org.